Hi everyone, I'm Tanya. I love reading and imagining what-if scenarios. Like, what if the old woman had killed Raskolnikov in self-defense in Crime and Punishment? Would she have been tormented by a guilty conscience? I enjoy going through the drafts of novels and letters written by authors. And in this video, I'll share some facts that could have completely changed the novel. So, let's dive into the alternate universe of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. First, the novel might not have existed at all. Dostoevsky could have never written his novel, because he was almost executed. In the mid-1840s, Dostoevsky was a member of a group of intellectuals who, like him, loved discussing the system of the government. Together, they pushed their conversations to the limits. In 1849, the writer and the other members of the circle were arrested on suspicion of revolutionary activities. Ouch. He spent several months in prison, and then a death sentence was read to him, and he was brought to the town square for execution. It was only the last minute before the execution that it was announced that the emperor had granted him a pardon and sent him to hard labor. Whew. It could be an interesting scenario for series. The entire experience had a profound impact on Dostoevsky. He became deeply religious and started contemplating moral questions. It's interesting to think about how many unwritten novels there are in the history of Russia. Next, the novel might not have existed at all again, but this time the reason was different. Dostoevsky was a compulsive gambler and had lost everything in casinos, including personal belongings and money borrowed from women. In the summer of 1865, the writer found himself stuck abroad once again, in a small hotel room without money, food, or light. He had to start working on a new novel, which he planned to make purely criminal. Oh, people love reading about it. Just to quickly earn some money from it. So, when he received an advance payment, he returned to St. Petersburg and was extremely anxious that he wouldn't finish the book before being taken to the debtor's prison. Such an intense motivation. Raskolnikov. According to Dostoevsky's initial plan, Raskolnikov was supposed to have a talent for writing. However, in the final version of the novel, this aspect is mentioned only briefly. All we are told is that Raskolnikov sent one of his articles to a newspaper and it was published. Did Dostoevsky intend to present himself as a writer through Raskolnikov in the novel? Next, Elizaveta and Zasimov. At first, Elizaveta was supposed to be pregnant, and the father was Zasimov, a rather questionable man. Also, this detail didn't make it into the final version of the novel. So, what would have changed in the novel and in the perception of the global community towards the novel if it had started with the crime against a pregnant woman? And the question in the style of Dostoevsky: is the life of a non-pregnant woman less valuable than the life of a pregnant woman? Sonia and Luzhin. At the beginning of working on the novel, Dostoevsky had planned a storyline in which Luzhin falls in love with Sonia Marmeladova. However, later on, the writer abandoned this idea. If Sonia hadn't fallen in love with Raskolnikov, how would his soul have changed? Did love help him? And if not love, then what? First-person narration. At the beginning of the novel's development, the narration was in the first person from the perspective of the criminal himself. In the final, third edition of the novel, the narration shifted to the third person from the perspective of the author and so-called omniscient eye. Dostoevsky initially wanted the novel to be read as a confession, but later on he decided to switch to the all-knowing voice of the author in order to go deeper into the tormenting depths of the protagonist's psyche. And you, would you like to read a novel from the perspective of someone who planned and committed a murder? If Dostoevsky had written the novel from Raskolnikov's point of view, could he have earned more money from it? Raskolnikov's choice of using an axe as a murder weapon is not an accident. The axe is one of the main tools of the common folk. It can be seen as a symbol of labor, as peasants have long used axes to chop trees, build houses, and more. However, Raskolnikov is far removed from physical labor. Therefore, when he serves his punishment for the murder in Siberia, other prisoners laugh at him, saying, "You're a noble man. What businesses do you have with an axe? It's not a nobleman's affair at all." What Dostoevsky would have used as a symbol if he had written this novel during the Soviet Union era? Perhaps he would have used a sickle or a hammer, which were prominent symbols of the working class and communism during that time. And in your country? The surname. The surname of Raskolnikov is not random. The surname Raskolnikov with the root Raskol means split and broken. A good name for a Dostoevsky novel, by the way. So, this is derived from the schism in the Russian Orthodox Church in the 17th century. As we remember, Dostoevsky himself was a real Christian by that time and started incorporating Orthodox symbols into his books. In the drafts, there were even references to specific events from the life of the Raskolnikov family that coincided with the dates of the schism. This word also meant decision, which effectively reflects the duality of the protagonist's personality. He is either an overly sensitive intellectual or a maniac with an axe. If Raskolnikov had received a harsher punishment, during Dostoevsky's time, punishments were softened. Murderers were being sent to Siberia, sometimes to hard labor camps. Yes, and soft. In this context, Raskolnikov received only 8 years of imprisonment. And he was classified as a second-class convict who worked not in the mines but within the fortress itself. Dostoevsky, who went through a sudden change in his own life and was saved from a severe punishment, showed the same kind of mercy to his character in his story. Next, the novel did not please everyone. Although the novel immediately attracted attention, many readers criticized it for various reasons. Students with radical views feared that they would now be accused, thanks to Dostoevsky, of having criminal tendencies. Critics laughed at how unrealistic the story plot was. They didn't think it made sense that a student would commit murder either for stealing or to prove a point. Nonsense, gibberish, bah. A story about an enormous maniac, so these were typical comments. People's comments were always so kind. Next, if it weren't for a need, Raskolnikov would have hidden the box in a different place. From the memoirs of the writer's wife, it's known that the novel Crime and Punishment depicts the real St. Petersburg. The author describes real existing houses, bridges, streets, taverns, and so on. Interestingly, even the country yard where Raskolnikov hid the stolen item also really existed. He discovered this place when, while strolling through the city, Dostoevsky turned in an empty country yard to relieve himself. What do you think about when you enter an empty country yard for a very urgent matter? Maybe it's time to write a masterpiece. Thus, Welcome to the world of Russian literature, where after getting the answers to your questions, you find yourself having even more questions. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you next week. Bye!